I'm Brian with Illusion Wraps, and today we're carving pumpkins. These are all of our designers here. We have Phil and Heather, and Heather is the pumpkin carving queen of the East Coast. And today she's actually going to teach us how to carve pumpkins. And when I say carve, actually sculpt. So sculpt pumpkins. So because I always carve just basic faces and whatnot. So now we're going to step it up, and we're going to let Heather teach us how to do it. And I guess we're going to see whose pumpkin comes out the best. And it'll be mine.
Okay.
So I've been doing pretty detailed pumpkins for several years now. It kind of started with after college. I went to carve a pumpkin one year and was getting really frustrated with like the little saws and stuff. Just making a big mess and having to cut all the way through and not being able to do detail. And then when I would, like if I did anything skinny, it would inevitably break and like fall apart and die really quickly. So I remembered that I had some tools from my printmaking classes. Mostly block print and then linoleum block print cutting tools. So I just kind of took out all of the various like knives and stuff that I already had from art class and started experimenting with different ways to do the pumpkin. And the main thing that I do is don't cut all the way through, which allows you to have like a lot more variation in tones and everything. As far as basics to like get set up with the way I do it, I always cut the bottom out of the pumpkin. And I also, when I first started doing it, I was like propping it up with like a lamp underneath. It was a whole thing, like a desk lamp. But my husband has actually made me some of these, which is basically just like a lamp base with a light bulb. And having the brighter light allows you to do a lot more variation. You don't have to necessarily cut all the way through to still have it glow, which is pretty cool. I can show you a few of the things that I've used. Over the years, I've experimented with a lot of different tools. Sometimes I've used clay tools. They tend to not be sharp enough. These ones that I have here are actually from an Amazon pumpkin carving kit, but they're more of like a clay tool, and they have a little bit of a sharp edge. So those can be good for digging stuff out. As far as line work and what I actually got started in doing the detailed stuff was with these. They're called linoleum cutters, and it's for linoleum block printing. And basically, there's various sizes and stuff, but it's basically just a U-shaped blade. So what it does is it allows you to like cut out a groove in it, versus like an X-Acto knife that's just gonna do a very skinny cut. Like you can push this along and cut, like, depending on how wide the groove is, cut an actual line. And if you have it illuminated from the inside, you don't actually have to cut that deep into it to be able to have like a glowing line. Over the years, every year I get a little bit more complicated. So one thing that you can do with this technique is have some pretty complicated shading by just varying how deep you cut into the pumpkin. So there's some that I've done that are like portraits of people, and it looks like it's fully shaded, almost painted. And what you have to do is kind of reverse the way you think about shading. So anything that's bright, you cut deeper. Anything that's dark, you keep shallower. I'm a little bit of a crazy person with the pumpkins. Like some of the ones that I've done in past years that get really detailed are like 12 hours or so.
Jesus Christ.
I'll do like a few hours per night for 3-4 nights or something like that. And it's kind of become a personal challenge thing where I try to make them a little more complicated every year. And it's gotten to the point where every year around September, people start like contacting me like, what are you gonna do this year? So I feel like there's pressure there to make a cooler pumpkin every year. But one thing also with these is depending on how deep you go kind of dictates how long it's gonna last. Some of the ones I've done that are really detailed will last like 3 days before they start breaking down. One thing that you can do to prolong the life, sometimes I'll mix water with a little bit of lemon juice and brush it on there, and then put it in the fridge. But honestly, the last few years I've realized the water or lemon juice doesn't make a whole lot of difference. I think mainly it's the fridge. So anytime you're not displaying it, just put it in the fridge. Obviously it takes a good amount of space, you kind of have to plan ahead, but doing that, I'm able to prolong it for like a week or two, and then I just take it out right when I want it to be displayed and glowing, and then put it back in the fridge. So
Yeah, there's nothing like 12 hours worth of hard work to be gone in a day.
yeah, and
It's like ice sculpting.
Yeah.
Now, can I take a closer look at this? Because why is this your oh my God. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Well, yeah, that's an even more extreme example, but
Yeah.
for me, I think that's part of the appeal of it is like once a year for a couple weeks, I just kind of go nuts and like put a whole ton into it, and then I kind of like that it breaks down and it only kind of lives in photos after
Right,
that,
yeah.
you know. I feel like it's, you know, it's more meaningful or something. I've had people tell me I should do fake pumpkins, but honestly, I just like doing the real thing.
Right.
So every year I show, I've known Brian a long time, you know, he's seen everything I do every year, and he kind of wanted me to show how I do it. And
I just really want to know how to do it so I can try to be cool too.
so that's what we're going to try to do
Trying to
today.
up my pumpkin game, definitely.
Yeah, well, and I feel like the technique, once you know it, if you can draw, you can do a cool pumpkin. It's just like these sort of techniques are just not something that you would think of in the store. It's always like the little saws and everything. And this is actually, in my eyes, easier than doing like the little saws where you're having to cut through like an inch and a half of
Right.
pumpkin. And you can do cooler effects too. So that's why I do it.
Cool. So that was pretty much all the tools, right? For the most part, a rundown of the tools, and then I guess what are your steps in doing this?
Well, and I will say one thing about the tools also, we bought some more, pretty much any kind of,
Some speedballs.
and yeah, this is the kit that I always get.
Yes, I don't know anything about carving tools.
So the fact that I have like several of these lined up in front of me is over the years I keep buying the same kit over and over again, so I don't have to change the blades out.
yeah.
Yeah, so I have like one lined up of each kind. Speedball linoleum cutter. It's usually kind of tucked in a corner of Michael's somewhere, which is what we
The people don't know.
discovered today. The people
don't know
who
where
work
they're-
there may not even know what it is.
Use your Michael's app.
Yeah, use the Michael's app, find out what aisle it's going to be on. But yeah, it basically just has a screw top and you can change out the blades. Anything like sharp that allows you to do precision cutting. I just bought like a clay tool set. I haven't tried it yet, but it looks like it might be useful. I mean, a lot of it is just kind of experimenting. There's another one with like little loop things on there for kind of digging stuff out. And I guess, yeah, as far as the process, cut out the bottom, get all the guts out, try to have as even of a surface as you can. Like, so what I'll do is I'll take like either just like a regular metal spoon, or some of these ones that you can get are like smooth on the end, and you just want to kind of scrape so that it's an even surface. And then lots of times I'll go ahead and put the light inside of it and check to make sure there's not like a lot of weird unevenness, because sometimes there is. And then if there's like darker spots, I'll just shave it back down some more. And then after that, I mean, I always draw on the pumpkin first rather than just kind of winging it. So we have red Sharpies today. In the past, I've used like Crayola markers and stuff. And then once you start carving, you can mark all over your hand and everything. So lately I'll use the Sharpie, and then when it's lit up and it's dark, you can't really see the Sharpie, but sometimes I'll just use like fingernail polish remover to take it off afterwards.
It looks like we got some Squid Game carvings
I haven't
too.
seen.
दूसरी गेम का नाम है शुगर हनी कोल्स। अगर आप 10 मिनट के वक्त में
And then you just kind of go with it. Usually I'll start out top layer with kind of the skinny cutter, get everything lined in, and then figure out what
so I
needs
guess
to
the
come
first
out.
step for us is to get our sketch on there, and then
Yeah.
then we can start digging into the tools, actually using them and whatnot. So
Yeah.
Heather kind of pre-sketched hers. Phil kind of got some stuff from online to look at, and I'm just gonna sketch mine with a Sharpie. So we're kind of going about it 3 different ways, which is kind of cool. So let's start drawing. All right, so we're done with our pumpkins. I think we spent anywhere from about 2 to 3 hours on them, something like that, somewhere about that. My finger hurts really bad. Definitely for me, it was a challenge overall. I think I always looked at Heather's pumpkins and was like, yeah, if I had a carver, I could probably do that. And now I'm kind of like, yeah, it's gonna take me a couple years until I get up to that speed. But I learned a lot and very cool. I think they all turned out pretty good. I mean, Heather's is definitely better than ours, but you know. How about you, Phil? What'd you think?
Yeah, it was. I learned. I think I'm excited to do more in the future now.
Right.
But definitely a cool process. It beats the traditional just taking a kitchen knife and like cutting out some triangles.
Yeah, I think the hardest part for me was just getting the top layer off, and then once
You had
get
that big, thick pumpkin.
Yeah, y'all's was already like halfway lit up, and mine's, I did go through in a couple little spots, but you can't really tell. But it's definitely cool. I think that maybe we should do it next year again and see where we're at, you know? Because it's not like you're gonna like practice carving pumpkins all year or anything. I might.
You never know.
Well, that's one of those things, like, because I do multiple a year sometimes, it's like by the second or third, I'm like, this is easy, like I'm all set, but then you don't do it again for a year.
I think just having an idea of like the right kind of tools to use.
Yeah, and knowing what they do.
And knowing what they do. And I think me, like, if I could go back, I would redraw it differently. Knowing what I was going to leave and all that. It was very cool. Very cool.
I was happy that we went and bought more tools than what I already had, because I was pretty confident with the ones I had, but we got a couple things that I was like, let's try these out, and they turned out pretty good. I don't know where the one went. There's one that they're clay tools, and they're like just a little metal loop, and those worked out really well.
Yeah, I like those ones, and even like the little claw digger was kind of cool because you can kind of like fine tune some of the little like super thin lines, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of having something little and skinny that'll dig stuff out, and then some of them that are wider or more circular are good for like clearing big areas.
Yeah, so I guess for the most part right now, we're gonna unveil them, and you guys can comment below and let us know which one is your favorite. Alright, so these are our pumpkins from our lessons from Heather. You can see a lot more of her pumpkins and her art at heatherwilderart.com.
Well,
You do have that too,
heatherwilderart.com, and my Instagram's also heatherwilderart.
Instagram. She's not on TikTok yet. She's too old.
No, I'm old. I'll get there, maybe.
But yeah, hopefully we'll do another one next year. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you then.